God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. Psst. It's not actually Fritz under this mustache. It's Esme. You may be wondering, does Esme always wander around her house in a mustache? Well, this week I'm talking about books, and I've had to read Nietzsche's On Truth and Lie in an Extramoral Sense for the third or fourth time. So I thought in honor I should break out the mustache. Mom or anyone else who may need help, repeat after me. Nietzsche. 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 Not Nietzsche, not Nietzsche, not Nitsky. Nietzsche. So I've noticed in my last vlog when I was watching it that this shot with the camera, you can imagine I'm still in Lavender Corner in Bellingham. Got Leopold. I don't normally have a dog in Bellingham, but got Katie's bookshelf with a plant on it. I've even got some Monet up there. Yeah. Within this shot, I am forever in Lavender Corner. Here is some of the stuff I've been reading lately. That Fugue is the literary journal run by the grad students. I'm one of the readers for that. Submission evaluators. Running in the Family, a very good book. This one has glitter on the cover. I'm always a fan. Oh, Scout! Oh, you're getting in the way of the movie process. Shoo. Shoo. I just started this one last night at Katie's recommendation. Haven't finished this one yet. This one I am reading The Lesson by Ionesco in it. That's the play me and Katie saw for Theater of the Absurd way back in the day. I'm going to use it in the essay I'm writing right now. And these are just a few of the things I've been reading for Bodies of Persuasion, my rhetoric class got. In addition to Nietzsche, Heidegger, today we talked about Derrida, Cicero, Plato, Gorgias, you know, the usual. Give you a more in-depth look at what I've been reading. Lately, I've been reading some Christopher Moore. And when I first started reading Christopher Moore, or when my brother started reading Christopher Moore, I was like, these titles are stupid and the covers are stupid. What is this? And I started reading them and they're really funny. So I've got Luke and The Less Wizard of Melancholy Cove. The thing about Moore is that he's not just really funny, but he's also got some pretty engaging plot, and his characters are a mix of eccentric and endearing. Like in this one, for instance, a mix of eccentric and endearing is you've got this white boy from New Jersey who's pretending to be a Hawaiian Rastafarian. And in this one, there's a woman who used to be an actress in movies, and her character was Kendra, warrior babe of the Outland, and now some 30 years after she's done making these movies, she's schizophrenic, and she still likes to run around in her leather bikini with a broadsword kicking ass. Pretty awesome. Our thinking should have a vigorous fragrance, like a wheat field on a summer's night. So before I start talking about My Life by Lynn Haginian, I'm going to read a section of it because if you haven't read it, it's not going to make much sense what I'm saying about it. So this is one of the passages that I connected with to also give you a feel for like how unconnected all the sentences are. There is no greater temptation than that of reminiscence. What memory is not a gripping thought? She was born with that stubborn temperament and has shaped the particular seriousness by virtue of which she has carried out her intentions. A spiral is the shape of a progression of circles. Thus, myopia may serve to dispel the pains of chronophobia. The obvious analogy is with music. Thought it through and through. The inaccessibility of the meaning intrigued me all the more, since I couldn't read the single letters, if that is what they were, the little marks which constitute Persian. Mother dimension, sex. She observed that detail minutely, as if it were botanical, as if words could unite an ardent intellect with the external material world. Listen to the drips, the limits of personality. It's in the nature of language to encourage, and in part to justify, such Faustian longings. Break them up into uncounted, continuous, and voluminous digressions. The very word diary depresses me. So, My Life by Lynn Haginian. This book is labeled as poetry/autobiography/women's literature. And just right up front, poetry/autobiography. A little confusing. Also, I just get generally annoyed. You'll know this, Katie. When things are labeled women's literature, if it's written by a female author, does that automatically make it women's literature, as if men aren't supposed to be reading it? I mean, if there's a male author, does it go into a category called men's literature? No. Anyway, so it's poetry/autobiography. I read this in my contemporary memoir class. We actually just discussed it tonight. Lynn Haginian is part of the language poets. I don't know much about the language poets, but apparently this is like less far out and wacky as far as language poetry goes. There are 45 chapters, and each chapter is 45 sentences long, because Lynn Haginian was 45 years old at the time of this autobiography, and it's just like a long prose poem, really. So part of the idea of the language poets is that they put random sentences together, and the sentences don't necessarily make obvious sense together, but that's supposed to leave space for the reader to engage and bring in their own thoughts. This doesn't always work. Sometimes it just ends up alienating the reader because it just seems so incoherent. And as Jory, a first-year poet, said, this book doesn't do a lot to help you out in getting a hold of what's going on. Like the poetic things that you're supposed to look for aren't really there in the book. But what I have found in reading this book is that it's best just to get into the flow of things and take the book for what it wants to be. And it's easy to zone out while reading it, but every once in a while a sentence will pop out and you'll be like, oh, that's beautifully written, or that resonates with me. I don't know what the rest of the book is saying, but this sentence resonates with me. Let's take a moment just to contemplate the cover and title of this book. My Life. Not an unusual name for an autobiography. Still, with that title and the thoughtful picture of Lynn Haginian looking into the distance, I don't know how anyone could take themselves seriously to do this. Like it seems like it has to be irony. Like the self-absorbed autobiography, My Life, and here's a picture of me, smack dab on the cover. Yes, I manufacture ice. Ice may help you to digest. If you had much to digest, how you would like my ice. A little while ago, I read a couple novels by P.G. Wodehouse, This contains 3 of the novels, and this is the first time I've read P.G. Wodehouse, but 2 of the novels that I read in here take place at Blanding's Castle. And so P.G. Wodehouse's books are like these charming stories of eccentric characters running around the picturesque garden-filled Blanding Castle, getting in trouble. Really, the best word to describe Wodehouse's work is witty. Well, Katie and whoever else has seen me on Halloween before, you may be noticing that Nietzsche's looking a little more stylish than usual. I think I gave Nietzsche's suit to the Goodwill in a fit of stress while moving to Idaho. It's a loss. Oh well. I'll leave you with one final thought. As Professor Jody Nicotra says, if you understand Nietzsche's On Truth and Lying in an extramoral sense, you understand 75% of continental philosophy.